Welcome to the Prevention Platform, where our goal is to equip you with the knowledge and tools you need to prevent problems before they occur. Here at Valley Youth House, we believe that prevention is key to living a healthy and successful life, and we are excited to share our expertise with you. We hope that you find our discussions informative, engaging, and relevant to your own parenting journey. So sit back, relax, and let's dive into the world of prevention together.
Welcome to another episode of the Prevention Platform. In honor of Bullying Prevention Month, today's episode is dedicated to understanding and combating bullying. Our expert guest today is Catherine Denzel, who is a licensed clinical social worker with over 20 years of experience. She has worked in private practice and is a former school-based counselor here at Valley Youth House.
Catherine, thank you so much for being here and talking with us about this important topic, which is bullying and bullying prevention.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. This
You're
is a
welcome.
topic that I'm passionate about.
Yeah. So let's start with the basics, and if you could just talk a little bit about what bullying is.
So I like to do by definition, because in my office, when I'm providing therapy, I actually have the definition of bullying on the wall.
Really?
So it's the repetitive, intentional hurting of one person or group by another person or group where the relationship involves an imbalance of power. It can be physical, verbal, psychological. It can happen face-to-face, online. I like to clarify that for kids because they'll be like, well, I just, called him an idiot. Okay, so you made an error. They asked you to stop, but then you said it 50 more times throughout the day. So that would be consistent, and it's an imbalance of power because you're coming at them and they don't have a defense for you.
Okay.
So you're the person, the antagonist in the situation.
I like how you clarified on the imbalance of power, because I think that's what separates bullying is like that repeated, consistent imbalance versus just maybe like a conversation that's not nice in general.
Like you're a jerk, no, you're a jerk, and then going back and forth. When one person wants it to end and verbalizes that, and it consistently continues to happen, now that other person may come back in defense of themselves.
Right.
And then people will say, well, you said this back. Then we have to really look and clarify what really happened. Because that person might be in a room where they can't get out of and defending themselves after they've asked that person stop and set the boundary.
Okay.
So it is, in this definition, it doesn't have consistent, well, it has repetitive, consistent, going on and on with it, not stopping.
Would you say that bullying is an issue that you hear about a lot when you're in sessions with students and even with adults? Are they dealing with that?
I would say if I had 30 students, and this is just off the top of my head, I would say 20 of them come to me with a bullying issue.
Where they're the perpetrator or they're the victim?
So sometimes they don't realize they're the perpetrator, and then after a few sessions, we identify, well, wait a minute, you continue to put your desk right where they're walking, and they've asked you not to do that. Yeah, but I didn't say anything. No, but your action is letting them know that you're coming after them over and over after they asked you to stop, after the teacher has asked you to stop, and you repetitively continue to do that. Sometimes they don't recognize when they are the bully. And so identifying that, and then how do you, not so much why, how do you stop? We will process why, but more so, how do you stop doing that? Stop the cycle of what you're doing. And then, the why is in there. Why are you doing this? we'll focus on that. But how can you today, after you leave this office, stop the behavior? Step one.
And do you feel like more of the students who come to you with bullying related issues are the perpetrator, or are they the victim?
I would say victim.
Okay. And do you find in your experience that kids are forthcoming about their experiences in being bullying, or are they struggling and not really talking about that?
A lot of times the reason why they're referred to me is because of situations where they're being bullied and they're defending themselves in ways that put other people at risk at times. What's happening in that environment where you feel the need to go to that extreme. But saying, why are you going to this extreme? Well, I asked him to stop, for weeks now, and it continues. The teacher asked him to stop. My mom told me to stick up for myself. And so then we just talk about what are the steps that you can take to defend yourself without making threats or put yourself at risk. And then on the other end of that, I will also go to the principal, the vice principal, the teacher, and start saying, well, why does this situation continue to happen? Because they're supposed to be safe. It's an environment where they're supposed to feel secure. Because a safe mind and a secure mind can learn better. When you're being bullied, you don't learn as well.
Sure.
Because you're distracted with, what is this person going to say? I'm tense and stressed. What am I going to say back to them?
Well, they're in fight or flight all the time.
Absolutely.
And that's really interesting. So what would be some signs? I mean, I know you're a parent.
Right.
What are some signs that you could look for maybe the kids that are not as forthcoming about being bullied? Are there signs? Are there things that parents can look for, in their kids that might indicate that there's something going on?
I think having open communication with your child. I talk to parents who are like, well, I don't know, they don't say much. I think even parents I know personally, have a lunch date with your child. Go out and have lunch, just the two of you, and have an open dialogue. How are things going? Is there any way that I can help you? How are your grades? I noticed math isn't. What's going on in your math class that's causing your math grade to go down? If kids come home and they're angry and they seem tense, opening up and asking, is there anything going on at school? Is there anything I should know or I can help you with? Contacting the school, emailing and communicating with the teacher. Do you notice anything going on in class? Really being involved. And some people are like, well, they don't like that. Well, they're a child. A child's mind may not like that. They think you're overstepping. An adult mind is, I need to protect and take care of you and teach you how to communicate when things aren't going well. And you can lean on me.
So you seem to think that the communication, obviously, between a caregiver and a child is one of the first things that a caregiver can do,
right,
to potentially prevent or try to intervene in a situation that's going on, right?
And start that young. Start that communication very young. Saying, how was your day? Let's draw pictures about what your day looked like. At dinner, play a game stating what went right today, what could have gone differently.
Right.
Start that with every meal, so that when they're young,
from a young age, from kindergarten, pre-kindergarten, right?
Yeah. Organically, those conversations seem comfortable to discuss. Not I'm tattling. No, I'm just talking to my parent and explaining what the day was like.
So, I know, for my kids, I, from a very young age, when they were young, would talk to them about, we don't have secrets, between us, right? It's okay to have surprises, right? You're planning a surprise for somebody. That's different. A surprise is different than a secret.
Right.
I think encouraging that communication, you're right, from a young age is really critical. What about what about, are there other adults that, in the school who maybe could talk with the kids about things that are going on?
Oh, absolutely.
Because not everybody has the relationship that you might have with your kids, or,
right.
Like they might not have that, or they might not have, a trusted adult in the home. So for kids, who do struggle,
right.
Who else would you recommend that they talk to about what's happening?
I think that's where like the school counselor
mm-hmm.
role is so important in getting to know all the children.
Sure.
I mean, you can't get to know them personally and know their whole family dynamic and background and all that. But putting yourself out there regularly in a classroom saying, I'm a support for you, I'm here for you, I can advocate for you, I can help you with what you're going through, and like consistently making yourself seen in the school.
Mm-hmm.
Also the vice principal and the principal, that's also part of their role. They're the protectors of that school environment, and making themselves seen and available to help kids.
So with October being Bullying Prevention Month,
Right.
how do you think that adults, all adults,
Right.
can work to prevent bullying from happening? What do you think adults should be doing?
Well, so I printed out some things, and I think modeling kindness and inclusion. I think at school, I don't know if you've ever heard this, you have kids,
Mm-hmm.
and my kids will come home and be like, well, that teacher really pays attention to these students, the honor students, or they like girls more than they like boys, or they like, that person likes boys and pays more attention, and the girls are always getting out. Like,
the kids pick up on that kind of stuff.
Oh, they do. Consistently just being fair, being kind,
Mm-hmm.
Role modeling how to respond to situations, using a tone that, you can use a tone that's stern and gets your point across without raising your voice or being mean. Managing your class in a way that you get to know your students, and then when something comes up, you can identify that there's an issue. Whatever that is, and pulling that student aside, building a relationship. How's it going? Seems like you're not answering as much, or I notice that you're not doing as well on your test. And
are there any trusted individuals outside of the school setting that you feel can help with situations involving bullying?
a therapist,
Okay.
Helping to navigate parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles. I think, so like, I know from personal experience, when my son started talking about what was going on at school, my sisters chimed in.
Well, and I think sometimes kids, they don't want to bring stress onto their caregivers or their parents, right? Like they feel that they're protecting them by not telling them what's going on, which is a whole other.
I know. And I hear that from students. I've heard that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to tell my mom. We had a situation last year where a student was horribly bullied by just different levels of kids, and it was
Did he have somebody who he could talk to?
He talked to me, and then Mom and I were on a regular, daily, talking about what she could do,
right? Because
she had a lot of power and didn't know it, and so advocating for her as well, like, here's what you can do with the school, and then advocating with him, remove yourself from situations. If you're standing behind that person in line, tell the teacher, I can tell the teacher, allow me to talk to the teacher and say, he's having a real problem with this person. Can he be the last in line? Can he, they need to be separated. Just things you can do in the classroom, moving the desk, giving a teacher a heads up so that they can sort of observe what's going on in the class environment, because they'll take action. So letting adults, the teacher, meeting with the school counselor, letting them know. Maybe they could participate in a group that talks about, what does bullying look like? why do people do it, and things like that.
I have an almost third grader, and there was a student in his class who was picking on, it seems like, a bunch of different kids for different reasons, and fortunately he did talk to me about it, but he sort of undermined it. He was like, no, it's okay, you don't have to, you don't have to say anything. Sometimes I think kids don't want us adults to get involved. They want to kind of figure it out on their own. But I think eventually, like what you said, I did reach out to the teacher and just kind of gave her a heads up and let her know, and then we were able to talk about what we could do to prevent that from happening. So I agree with you. I think the communication is important, that role modeling, and making sure that kids know that they can trust whatever adults are in their life. They need to have that foundation of trust, right?
Right.
Feel that they're really in their corner in order for them to open up to them.
And also having an authentic conversation, like, well, I would say to the students, what role do you want me to play in this? Because I could play the role where I go in and I am really letting people know that this is happening with your permission,
right,
and something needs to be done. Or do you want me to be the person who just emails the teacher and says, keep a lookout in the classroom?
And that's important too, giving the kids who are experiencing this autonomy and their own leadership and how they want the situation handled, because some kids, it might get worse for some kids if it's handled in certain ways.
Right.
So I think that's important too.
Right. Because like you said, I have another son who he didn't want to tell me things that were going on at school until I received an email from the school that something was happening. And I asked him about it, and he said, it's not a big deal, I'm trying to handle it. I said, it's been 4 months, apparently. He emailed all the teachers, said, take a look out on this situation. And a teacher wrote back to me like a day or two later. She witnessed a student going around the classroom specifically to find him and then pushed him. So she was so happy to let me know what she observed so that hopefully it could be now handled.
That's also a good point, because there are a lot of things happening in any given classroom at any moment, right? So sometimes teachers aren't aware of it. And so that goes back to why it's so important that they have that communication with someone to let them know what's happening, because otherwise, we may not ever know what they dealt with. Like your sister, years and years later, talking about things she experienced as a child.
40 years.
And your mom
40 years ago.
Right. Well, and I think that's common. Sometimes we don't want to talk about, because I think when you're getting made fun of or bullied or picked on, you might not want to admit, you might not want to say it out loud, because once you say it out loud, it's real. Right? So I think that's why some kids do keep it to themselves, unfortunately.
Well, and here it says educate your child on peer differences, as a way of how you can help. There's been a lot of education going on in my office during sessions of, like, I'll hear something and I go, wow, that seems like it would hurt your feelings. And then there's feeling identification. Well, it does hurt my feelings, but I don't want to not be friends with this person.
Right.
So how do we navigate that? And setting boundaries. And we've had some really healthy outcomes with students setting boundaries and learning the difference between, like, just putting up with something, because sometimes you do that with friends, and then someone making you feel really upset internally and you don't do anything and it starts to pack on and add on. And then now all of a sudden you're a little depressed and you're with this person consistently daily.
Yeah.
So
what is the takeaway here for our adults who are listening in right now, who may suspect that their student, their child, somebody, a neighbor is experiencing some bullying? What would your advice be to them?
I really go back to having an open communication, starting that very young with your child, starting it now. going on little walks, going on a walk, going for a ride in the car with your child, and just having that one-on-one time, going for lunch, making a sandwich together, making a meal together, and do it, because sometimes kids don't want to sit one-on-one with their parent and talk. So make a meal together, do some painting together, gardening together, whatever that.
Just do any type of activity that could get them to start opening up
and communicating about what is going on. Yeah.
Thank you, Catherine.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Sure. It was nice to talk with you.
You too.